Hello everyone! I'm back again for another art journal. So it's a Sunday today and it is raining hard here in my city. I hope everyone is safe and dry in their own houses. Okay, so this art journal page is a long overdue, if I may say. I've done this page a long time ago and I was inspired by another artist. I just forgot who she was, but I'll try to look for her and link it below, or if not, you can find it on my blog. Happening here is I'm just blobbing some watercolors on the journal. The important thing that you should do is add a lot of water so the watercolor will flow accordingly or mix together with the other colors. Now you can use 2 or 3 colors depending on your preference, or like I think I've used more than that here. But what I've learned though is it's better to use just few colors so that the colors won't mix badly and they will turn out like as if it's a color mud. Now, if you will do this kind of technique, make sure though that you let the watercolors dry first before adding another layer of color, or eventually the colors will lighten up. So if you want to darken it up, just wait for it to dry for a while before putting the same color on top of it. Now that the watercolor is already dry, drawing a outline florals using I'm not sure if this is a Tombow or a Pilot brand, but this is one of my favorite pens as well. It has a soft tip um, pen, so you can create thin and thick lines at the same time. And if you can see the little journal or small journal on my upper left, that one was a journal that I used way back before when I was still kind of lost in terms of career, and maybe we can call it art block as well. So what I did back then, I promised myself, or I made a commitment that I will um, write something or at least draw something. But this was more of a quote reminder. So it was like a quote journal. So every day I write a quote in it and just add flowers or maybe a little abstract or geometric patterns just to match the quote. And for 1 month or for 30 days, I did that. And whenever I needed some quotes that speaks to me, I always go back to this journal. And so later on, since I still have a few more pages left in the journal, I tried to commit to another project still. So I think what I did was more of an illustration of different flowers just using black ink. So again, this is another reference book or reference journal for me whenever I needed an illustration for a flower. So here I am trying to copy one of those flowers from that journal. And you don't have to create something like this. You can just go to whatever you're comfortable with. So if you feel like creating geometric patterns or just an abstract flower, just feel free to do so. If you are seeing what I'm doing here, but this is a bit similar to the previous art journals that I did, which blobbing watercolors on the page and then layer it with an illustration on top. But this time though, I am not referring my illustration based on the color. I am just simply drawing on top of the dried paint or dried colors. Like my previous journals, I am basing my flower on the blob of watercolor. Does that make sense, or I'm just blobbing again? I hope later on, as you'll see the entire page, this will make sense. But so yeah, that's just the style or the techniques that I'm doing here. Just dabbing different colors and then draw on top of it using a black pen. So as you can see, well, at first I drew I drew big flowers so that it will maximize the space right away. But then I realized it's also nice that I draw big flowers, because it also draws your attention to the flowers. So later on, I made the text a little smaller, because, well, not totally smaller, but just relevant to the page, just so your focus won't be confused. So I'm just drawing a peony flower, or some would say it's peony, but I've read somewhere that it's pronounced as peony. Maybe it's like a potato. You can say either way. So anyway, I do hope it looks like one. But so yeah, this is one of my favorite flowers because they are just so pretty. The colors are muted or like pastel, and then unfortunately though, they are very hard, or they are not easily available here in the Philippines. More so, they are very expensive, but they are so nice to look at. So yeah, and for now I can just only draw them. I've seen some of my friends abroad putting peony flowers on their um, side tables. Or yeah, I saw my sister from Canada. She just picked out a peony flower from their flower shop, and then she displayed it on her side table. Well, here for us here in the Philippines, I can only draw them. So anyway, I'm almost done with this one, and soon you'll see why I left, or why is it okay to just leave few colors and you don't have to draw on all of them. Just draw whatever that you can, or if you feel that the flower is too big or too small already, you can just add more petals, but just leave the extra colors. And so here I am using an acrylic paint to cover up the entire page. Now this one is quite a bold move for me, if I may say. First, I don't really use dark colors, or I've used dark colors from my previous art journal, but that was because I wanted to use an excess paint. But this one was really intentional. So I don't use dark colors, but this kind of techniques really works best if you use a contrast color, which is a dark one. So since we're using different colors for the flowers, or if you prefer a different drawing for this one, it is nice that you use a darker color for the entire page, so that the technique that we just did is more visible to the eye. If you're wondering what kind of paint I use for this color blue, it's a Martha Stewart brand. I bought it in Michael's few years ago, and I really love this paint. After I use it, the paint was really smooth. It's supposed to be an acrylic, but it's more of like a mix of watercolor and acrylic. Or I think what they did, or the brand, the purpose of this was, it's an acrylic, but you can use it for a watercolor technique. So if you want to create the watercolor feels, then you just add more water to the paint. But just like what I'm doing here, I'm trying to create an opaque color, so you just don't add water on it. So it works both ways, something like that. So now I'm almost done covering the entire page with the blue paint, and as you can see, I am just slowly covering those excess watercolor, because I just want to show the entire flower, or the watercolor with the flower drawing on it, so we don't need the excess ones anymore. So just cover it slowly, And if you feel like you made a mistake, just try to wipe it off with tissue as long as it is still wet. So now let's just wait for this to dry. And this is the part where I told you to let it dry for a while. So if you want to darken up your colors, you can top it after, but make sure it's already dry so we can see that the colors will mix well or blend well together. Now I darken it up because I just felt that it was a bit light, and I wanted to mix more colors on different petals rather than just having one color. So this part is where I left the journal for more than a year. So it doesn't have any coat up until last week, and I realized, I really want to finish my entire journal, as in like totally finished, not just unfinished. So I went back to it and add a coat, and it says, argue with your limitations and you get to keep them. Now, I read this from the Big Magic book written by Elizabeth Gilbert, the same author of Eat, Love, and Pray, if you're familiar with that. Now, I haven't finished the book yet, but as I was reading, this quote really spoke to me because I realized that yes, I am actually arguing with my limitations. Like, I always have a reason why I'm not doing this and that. Like, I cannot create a lot of um, art journal because I don't have much time. I can't paint because I'm not yet done with this. And it goes on and on. And it also talks about not just in my art, but also in the business side and in all aspects. Like, I am actually arguing with my limitations. And now I realize that that's why they don't go away, because I just make an excuse all the time. So here it is. I am writing it down on my art journal, so I will be reminded that it's just me who needs to work on it, and my limitations are, I wouldn't really say petty, but they may be valid or invalid, or I don't know. But the point is, we can always do something about it. But if we keep on arguing with it or telling ourselves that this and that, then true enough, we get to keep them. I know it's not easy, and honestly, it's easier to just argue with our limitations, right? Rather than to work on it or do something about it. But this pandemic situation, I think, woke me up in a way and telling me that how long should I still wait to work on something that I always been wanting to do ever since. So yeah, it's still a long journey for me. It's a daily struggle, but at the same time, every day I also try my best, just do whatever I can. And maybe for now, that's um, enough for me. And here's the art journal number 12 for you guys. Oh, by the way, I used a Sakura white gel pen. It's one of the best white pen you'll ever use because it can write smoothly, and as you can see, it's very visible on dark um, paint or pages. So I hope you had fun as much as I did. Thank you again for spending this 14 minutes with me, and I do hope you were inspired to do something at least today or maybe this week. See you again soon, and please don't forget to like and subscribe on my channel. Have a great week ahead of you guys. Bye!